Welcome back, I am RJB and I am live back again to bring you some excitement. And of course, as always, I am here to walk you through the match with some of that pinpoint, sharp, whatever I can say, casting style of mine. I'm not trying to give myself a pat on the back though. No, I kind of feel cringy whenever I describe my own skills. It just feels so cringy. Anyway, I'm here to walk you through all of this. I'm going to do my best to make this as entertaining and precise as I possibly can. And yeah, we've got HamburgerSasu once again played by the Zerg. Actually, that's supposed to be the other way around. We have the Zerg once again played by HamburgerSasu. And he's here in the bottom left corner of the map up against the player SSSTAY. I'm just going to call him Stay. And he's playing the purple Protoss here on the other side of the map. And this Overlord is actually heading in the right direction for once. Most of the time we see the Overlord going in the wrong direction, but this time there's only one direction. And he is going in the right one. Right, so hatchery, the usual stuff. Usually I speed up the early game. I'm actually going to speed up this single minute, so we don't have to wait all that long before we can see something that is identifiable as a strategy. So Nexus, 2 gateways that are coming out for Stay. So he's not planning on being very aggressive early on, but he wants at least something out there on the map. That's why he has these 2 gateways, so he has nothing. Otherwise he would have nothing out there on the map. This pylon there in the front is just as a measure of being able to make cannons there in the front, just in the case he needs cannons there, but he most likely won't need cannons there, because HamburgerSasu went for the choke into a pool into 2 hatcheries. 2 hatcheries is actually quite greedy, I will admit. But it will all work out just fine, because I think HamburgerSasu knows that Stay is most likely going for this 2 gateway build that he did right here. Cannon also already coming out there just to be safe, just in case, and a cybernetic core there as well. He started off with a single gas. Usually players start off with 2 gas, but he started with 1 because he first wanted to know what HamburgerSasu was up to. In the case HamburgerSasu was doing a non-choke build order, he could have stayed on a single gas and then gone for a mass gateway unit strategy. But because he went for the choke, he's gonna have to build those 2 assimilators pretty early on and go for a more tech reliant build order instead of a more mass gateway unit reliant build order, or strategy you could call it. So 2 zealots are out there in the front, just standing there making sure that they can see anything that leaves HamburgerSasu's base, but also get drawn into a fight there because he's being a little bit negligent there. Zerking there makes its way into the base, so now HamburgerSasu can get some information on what Stay is up to, but I don't think it will yield all that much information, because this is pretty much the standard start for a Protoss against the Zerg. So there's not much out of the ordinary here, but at least he knows. If he hadn't known, he could have been off with the timings, but the timings on these 2 Citadels and the Robo are actually pretty fast, which also... Well, actually, HamburgerSasu is unlike usually, where he stays on a hatchery for pretty long until he has about 40 drones. He starts off with a lair really early on into the game, which also leads me to believe he might be going for a very quick Muladisk build. Whether that will yield results or yield fruits, I don't know, but otherwise he would probably already have his Hydralisk den out here on the map. Instead, he's droning up on only 2 macro hatcheries there in his main. And if he was going for anything different or anything else, he would have already had 3 hatcheries here. Actually, he does go for a den. The den will about synchronize with the finishing of the lair. So he is going for lurkers, maybe? I'm honestly just kind of guessing at this point because he has a lot of options. The only thing that I could confirm is that this is not ordinary. Not very ordinary to go for a very quick lair, unless you're going for Mulalisks or lurkers. Not perfectly synced up, but synced up just well enough. And yeah, no Spire coming out. So that has to be lurkers, but he cannot at the moment afford the lurker upgrade. So he's going for a bunch of Hydralisks first. And once those Hydralisks finish, he's going for the lurker tech upgrade. But first he's going to prepare himself for the shuttle that he actually manages to spot. He also spotted it with the Zerking that he kept sending in and out there. But his Overlord there spots out the shuttle moving over the map, which means he can move these Hydralisks into position to snipe the shuttle as it tries to fly over, or at least try to prevent it from dropping Zealots here on the low ground. And he can actually see this, I think. And he can see it, it's just inside of his vision, so he knows exactly what to do. And the thing that he's doing right now is getting more Hydralisks and Zerglings. Zerglings, of course, walling the Hydralisks, so the Hydralisks are safe behind the Zerglings. And then, of course, killing the Zealots there on the low ground. And he saw it coming, so he throws out a little bit of the BM. And it looks like Stay is not going to shuttle in any more units after that one, because he knows that anything he shuttles in risks the shuttle from going down. Wait, no way. He's going to do it anyway. He's going to do it anyway? I think he's going to drop here on the bottom corner of HamburgerSasu's base and go for it regardlessly. Also, there is the Spire we were talking about earlier. I don't think he's going for Mutalisks. I mean, the chance exists, but I think he's going to make some Scorches so he can snipe shuttles out of the air. So, Zealots there landing inside of HamburgerSasu's base. And they're gonna try... Oh, he's got Zealot lags finished up. I have not been paying attention to Stay's upgrade progression because I've been talking too much random gibberish, but the Zealots kind of achieve nothing whatsoever, which also means that the Zealots' speed upgrade also does not achieve all that much. He's got a mid-proxy build here on the middle with 3 robos and a bunch of gateways coming in there as well to shorten the distance to HamburgerSasu's base. So he's got that going for himself as well. And now he shuttles in more units once again. 4 Zealots are coming into the base just to keep HamburgerSasu busy. Or is this a waste of his units? I'm not too sure. We just have to wait and see, because those Zealots are not going to achieve all that much. Maybe get 2 or 3 kills on those Hydralisks. Actually, only 2 kills. Most of the others stay alive, although now he's in pursuit to kill more. And this is actually the real thing. A Reaver drop there going for the drones, and the Scorches did not get it. So the setup actually does yield some big results there. I think he got about 10 kills there on those drones, maybe even more. So the setup of using those Zealots to kill or to keep HamburgerSasu busy actually turns out to not be a waste of units. It actually got results. And whether that's to blame on HamburgerSasu going for this specific build order where he has the very early Spire and is planning to go for Mutalisks, usually he would have a lot more Hydralisks at this point into the game, but because he was being so scarce with his Hydralisk investment, he was holding back with the Hydralisks. It set up the option for Stay to go for that specific move he just did. Also, Scorch are coming in. Scorch is there sniping the shuttle before the Templar actually unloads. Templar Scorch on top of the Hydralisks, but no drone there going down. So HamburgerSasu buys himself a little bit of time to go deeper into the match, but it is going to be a pretty tough match here for HamburgerSasu unless he plans to go for a counterattack here on the Nexus with his Mutalisks. There's only a single cannon there. But of course, HamburgerSasu is not aware that there's only a single cannon here, and it is safe to assume that HamburgerSasu is assuming that there are more cannons here, but it looks like he's going for it anyway. He's not. He's not going for it. I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong. He's going for the Dragoon, because he wants to spread his Overlords out here over this spot here above him, so he can spot shuttles flying in from a greater distance. But there's a shuttle actually coming out from the bottom side here, but it gets spotted out by Overlords, which means that this Scorch is going to take the shuttle down, and another drop there gets nipped in the butt by a HamburgerSasu, who is doing some pretty great Scorch anti-drop moves. I really like this strategy. Usually, HamburgerSasu is very reliant on going for Hydralisks and using Hydralisks to snipe those shuttles, because he needs Hydralisks for the frontal push that most opponents in Protoss vs. Zerg go for. But because in this case the push is very delayed, you can actually afford to go for those Mutalisks and not go for the Hydralisks. But the Mutalisks can become quite weak if those Dragoons that are right here on the middle start moving in for the attack there as well. The Mutalisk might not achieve all that much. Also, Storm there comes down on the Mutalisk, and the Mutalisk have lost a lot of HP. So now all that Stay has to do is move those Dragoons into position here around the Reavers and start the frontal push. But there's a lot... Wait, is there a drop? No? Right, so he's just killing those Dragoons there. I heard sounds, I thought it was a drop, but I didn't see a drop on the map, so I was a little bit confused what's going on there. But once again, he goes in to kill those Reavers, but there's Dragoons behind the Reavers, which means the Mutalisks are going to take damage, and the Templar also comes in to storm the Mutalisks, and the Mutalisks might get caught out because they're now moving into the Dragoons, and a lot of the Mutalisks are actually going down. The Storm there comes down on them as well, and the Mutalisk number has gone down from about 9 to 5, but he's got 5 more spawned, but he's really small, and this is a really big, massive, and strong force here from Stay, who can, I think, just waltz right through this entire thing here with those Zealots and Dragoons, and the Reavers are in the back, hammering away on those units. But now Mutalisks coming in, but there's 2 Templars, well, 3 to 4 Templars there. Storm come down on the Mutalisks. Mutalisks trying to dodge the Storm, but the Mutalisks are going down so quick because the Storms are so effective. But it looks like he managed to extend his life by just a tiny little bit. just a tiny little bit, but those Dragoons there managing to penetrate through at least a full portion here of those Sunkens. But he has more units on the way there, and HamburgerSasu still relatively small. Mostly he's going to have to fight with those Mulelisks, but the Dragoons, as I mentioned before, are pretty darn strong, specifically with that level 1 attack damage on those Dragoons. Whereas HamburgerSasu does have a level 1 carapace, which makes him a little bit beefier, keeps him in the fight a little bit longer. It will definitely not seal the deal. Also, there's now an Archon there, and Archons absolutely obliterate Mulelisks within a matter of seconds, because that's 33 damage there, and Mulelisks sadly only have 120 HP. And of course, Archons deal AoE damage, so if the Mulelisks are a little bit too close to each other and they get hit by one of those shots, they go down stupidly quick. There's a Lurker here now as well, and the Lurker is going to take down those Reavers there without effort. And there's no detection here for Stay, so the Reaver is going to get some mileage, but Stay is actually being pretty smart there, because he tries to circumvent the Sunkens there in the front and tries to go in from behind to at least avoid the Lurker from dealing damage on those Dragoons. Pretty smart move there from Stay, but Stay's attack does not yet do the trick, because HamburgerSasu there staying alive, tries to snipe the Reaver, snipes the Reaver, but I think more Reavers here on the middle are on the way. Never mind, it's no Reavers. It's no Reavers here in the middle. Just observers. You got the Reaver here inside of the base going for a drop, so it might actually be a drop that does the trick. But HamburgerSasu now on 100 supply is growing bigger and is throwing out a lot of his drones to turn them into Sunkens, but that's going to hurt his income significantly, so he's going to have to replace them very soon. But Stay here moving his Dragoons there, spreading them out over the entire length of this top side here, so we can get a pretty good surround on the Dragoons, on the Hylists and the Sunkens. Mulelisks going there in the back, trying to snipe the Reavers, but the Dragoons are taking down the Mulelisks, so the Reaver goes down in the end after all. And the Sunkens are going down really quick there as well, because as I've mentioned before, the upgrades for Stay are pretty good. 1 armor, 2 attack, whereas HamburgerSasu is on 0-0 for his Hylists and only 1 carapace for his Mulelisk. So the Mulelisk strategy actually winds up backfiring to a certain degree, because it's just so costly to go for Mulelisk, whereas you can make a lot more Hylisks for the same amount of money and pretty much get the same stuff done. But as of now, for now, HamburgerSasu manages to fight off this wave, but a drop comes in there, drop unloads, Reaver there on the low ground, Reaver there gets a shut off. No shut off on the drones yet. The Scarab does not explode. Reaver goes down. The drones there staying alive. Got 33 drones left there in the mix for mining, but he's gonna have to add on more drones very quick, very soon. Though right now he is at an impasse, because he is not doing much at the moment, but he's getting Lurkers there, just to add Lurkers to the front, because there's 2 observers here, so the Lurkers will not do much. But there's just the scenario is possible where HamburgerSasu uses Overlords to snipe those observers with the Scorches, which is something I think he's going to do, because now he sees the observers and he's sending in the Scorches. The Scorches are going for the observers, but the observers are moving away. Will he get both of them? He gets both of them, which now means the Lurkers here for HamburgerSasu are going to deal some great damage to the Dragoons. And they burrow down. Dragoons now have to run away, because the Dragoons cannot fight against those invisible units that are burrowed there, which now means that actually he's going to split up his units and lose these units there on the top side while waiting for another observer to spawn. Observer has spawned, observers on the way, Reavers on the way there as well. Soul, of course, going to pick up those Reavers, I think, because he's going to go for another drop, and the Reavers have been his choice of droppage material so far. But HamburgerSasu now on 40 drones, still very small, but he is getting bigger and bigger and managing to survive. And as the game goes longer and longer, the game is going to be harder and harder for Stay, and it looks like he sniped another observer, which once again forces Stay to pull back. But a shuttle here comes in through over the front. There's a Reaver and a Dragoon in there. HamburgerSasu can see it with the Overlord, but will he respond to it in kind? Will he respond to it appropriately? More Reavers spawning there. Stay is getting bigger. Stay is balling up his units. Observers there in the mix, in the front. He takes down. He tries to go for the Reavers, but all of his Hylists are going down in the process. He took down the Observer though, which now means the Lurkers can keep dealing damage for a little bit longer. Dragoons get pulled into the Lurkers, would have to pull out, but they're not pulling out quick enough. They're actually going to go in, and he's going to throw them all away, I think. Where is the Observer? Where's the Observer? No, Stay, don't waste your units like this. Stay is making a alright, the Observers are coming in, but he lost a lot of his units there by forcing them into the Lurkers. But I think that Stay simply has too many units. and he can afford to lose those units to the lurkers, it appears, because that's a pretty strong forcer in the top side. 5 Reavers surrounded by a lot of Dragoons, and he's now going for the push there, but HamburgerSasu gets the surround, but there's so many Reavers. Will he do this? Can he do this? Drop goes in, shuttle, no, shuttle is empty. He gets around on the Reavers. Reavers are going down, but a couple more shots there could nip this all in the bud and put an end to this, but HamburgerSasu wins it. He wins the exchange, and the exchange is now going in HamburgerSasu's favor because he's trying to attack on those Dragoons, but the Dragoons have superior, far superior upgrades. Level 2, 1, 3 of 3 attack against level 1 armor and level 1 attack on those Hydralisks, and that might just be disastrous for HamburgerSasu on the very next waves of attacks coming in from Stay, because Stay will get more damage out with the same amount of units because of those superior upgrades. But these Sunkens might be the game changer, and I've said that a lot, but those Sunkens are of course also assisting. But HamburgerSasu, 54 Hydras still on a lair. He's got level 2 upgrades not on the way, tries to go in for the attack. Target fires the Reavers, gets all the Reavers there. Really beautiful target firing work there from HamburgerSasu, gets the Reavers. Now he has to pull back to his Sunkens and pull those Dragoons into Sunken range and let the Sunkens do a lot of the work. Stay is pulling his Dragoons out of the Sunken range and spreads them out here on the top side, and he's taking down the Overlords. Some pretty great decision making there from Stay, and now goes back in once he has the spread on his Dragoons, so the Dragoons are not balling up here in a single spot, but are spreading out to get more damage down on those Sunkens. But Hydralisks are coming in from the side, Reavers are coming in from the backside, from the middle, ready to siege those Sunkens. But HamburgerSasu is dancing back and forth. He can't make up his mind. He's trying to go for it, but first he set up his Hydralisk, then he goes in for the attack, surrounding the Reavers. The Reavers will gotta go down all, unless Stay gets some pretty... Oh, the Storm there might just save the day there for Stay, because now HamburgerSasu loses all of his Hydralisks, and the Storms end up making the difference. But more Hydralisks on the way for HamburgerSasu. Can Stay pull this off? This game is closer than I thought it would be. Also in part because Stay has given up on using his drops. He just wants to push in through the front there with a superior force, superior mass that can do more than the Hydralisk that HamburgerSasu has, and HamburgerSasu has been relying on for now. But HamburgerSasu is actually running out of gas, but he gets a pretty good spread there on the Hydralisk, and this time around, once again, a lot of Hydralisks going down to the Storm there, and the Reavers there also sadly going down because another shot off kills 3 more Hydralisks, and now Dragoons are coming in there from the side with the superior upgrades, which now means our Hydralisks have to pull back. There's no upgrades in the chute there for HamburgerSasu, so he's going to have to stay on 1-1, while Stay is progressing towards level 2 armor, I mean shield, so it's 2 armor, 2 shields, 3 weapons on his Dragoons, which is pretty darn strong. It's way stronger than the Hydralisk, and we're now seeing results of that difference in upgrades because those Sunkens are going down, Hydralisks are forced to retreat. More drones being pulled to the front to make more Sunkens, but I don't think this will be enough for HamburgerSasu because he's simply too low on gas and cannot use all of his larvae to produce new Hydralisks in time. And it looks like Stay overruns his opponent HamburgerSasu here in the Protoss vs Zerg matchup. It took him a while. Both players played this amazingly well, but the sheer... Well, it was mostly the upgrades, really. The upgrades sealed the deal. It wasn't the Reavers, it wasn't the Templars, it was the upgrades that managed to secure Stay the win. The Templars there at the end though did save his life a couple of times because HamburgerSasu really had the option to go for a massive attack here into the middle, and once these gateways are threatened, the game flips on its head into Stay's favor. But as long as that does not happen, as long as Stay can keep these Hydralisks away from all these gateways here on the middle and all those robos, the game is pretty much always in favor of Stay. Because he just has to send out mass units and keep upgrading and stay ahead of HamburgerSasu, which he did brilliantly well. And yeah, the muleless choice for HamburgerSasu ended up kind of backfiring because he was smaller than he could have been had he not gone for that option. Had he gone for his usual Hydralisk option, I think he had a real chance of winning this game because those mulelisks pretty much achieved nothing whatsoever, and he still managed to fight his way through that early phase. That's really impressive from his part. So there's the second game here, and I'm going to go for a second game and see if that one has HamburgerSasu winning or losing. So let's see. So game number 2 between Stay and HamburgerSasu. Stay displayed a pretty good Protoss last game around. He discontinued his drops, but even without his drops he managed to net the success of the combined power of upgraded Reavers, upgraded Dragoons, and a couple of cute little Templars there in the mix, just to finish off those under-upgraded Hydralisks, pretty much. So for this game, we have Stay once again on the Protoss, and HamburgerSasu here on the Terran on the other side of the map. And he starts off with a barracks. Of course, the first 2 minutes are being sped up just to save us the boredom and the bore and the dread and the slowness of the early phase, because that's always one of those things that where I just wind up talking nonsense, and it's kind of embarrassing to be talking nonsense. Anyway, Stay starts off with the Nexus into a pylon, Nexus, forge, pylon, gateway, cannon, and then, just as the last game, a single assimilator. Most players go for 2, but first he wants to find his opponent, see what his opponent is doing, and then go for the second one. Or well, in this case, he goes for the second one before he knows what his opponent is doing, but he scouted those Marines, which means HamburgerSasu is planning on being aggressive with those Marines, but the cannon here is already finished there in the front for Stay, so that is definitely no longer an option for HamburgerSasu, at least until 4 or 5 minutes, when his stim upgrade and his Marines all finish up, although he has a very early academy here, and he's only on 2 barracks instead of 3, which really does hurt his offensive ability. So instead he's going for a very early factory, not going for the stim upgrade first. He goes for a factory, probably going into stim right now. No stim, he's going for a second gas first. He's got 2 medics on the way, which means stim is going to come out right now once he hits 100 minerals. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe he's not. Anyway, he's going for engineering bay here. He's going to float that engineering bay into Stay's base and scout his tech and what he's up to. He's got the Marines there dancing back and forth. Stim upgrade has just now started, so he is going for stim. Medics will arrive here a couple seconds before stim upgrade finishes, so everything will actually be somewhat synchronized. That's actually pretty well planned out. Stim upgrade there should be about at the 80% mark once those, well, 50% mark once the medics arrive here on the scene. But Stay knows that HamburgerSasu is one of those players who likes to go aggressive with Marines, so he adds another cannon, puts a gateway there in the front as well to make it harder for Marines to line up in a perfect line so they can fire on all the cannons at once. So Stay is doing the appropriate countermeasure actions to stop HamburgerSasu from stimming his way through the front here. First, HamburgerSasu has to take down this gateway, which is going to take a while, which gives Stay all the time he needs to build that 4th cannon there. And now he starts scouting the base. So he will find the robo, he will find the second robo, and he will find the support bay. He will not, or he might find the Citadel of Dune there in the top side. He might also find this cannon there. So at least the information he's gathering is useful, because he knows the timings. He can see the shuttle spawn, and when you see the shuttle spawn, you can more or less deduce that within 30 or 40 seconds, the Reaver will be out as well, and the shuttle will be flying towards your base, which is a great indicator of what is going to come next. He used his Zealous there to kill some Marines to stop this gateway from going down, but the gateway will go down regardless, but at least he managed to prune down the number of units here in the front to prevent a frontal attack from happening from HamburgerSasu. So HamburgerSasu is going to pull back to his front right now and start building a choke to prepare himself for the drop and for the frontal attack that is of course imminent as well, depending on which path Stay decides to go for. So 2 Reavers here on the way. Shuttle is located some over there. So he sent it there to the side. Whereas HamburgerSasu is going for a very quick dropship. Has 2 tanks finished up. Got siege mode there as well. He's got Marine range on the way there too. And he's making more Marines so he can snipe shuttles or fight Reavers with his very small Marine mass. But it might just work. Dropship finished up. And it's en route to his opponent's base, who only has a single cannon there. 1 cannon there in the top being warped in, but only a single cannon there to defend against tank drops, and these 2 might actually intersect. Yes, they have seen each other. They have seen each other, and Stay pulls back his shuttle, but the shuttle is slower than the dropship by default. So the tank drop might actually get some results, but he drops the tanks on the far end, too far away from the probes. The probes are running away. There's still a single tank there inside the dropship, and he's keeping that single tank in there. He unloads it with 2 Reavers there. He doesn't pick it up. Tank stays alive. Tank does not get any kills, but at least he manages to slow down the drop coming in from Stay by at least 30 or 40 seconds. Didn't get much results with the 2 tanks, but as long as you can get the Protoss to pull up their probes and delay their drop, you technically gain an advantage because you have more time to build your defenses, get your units in place, plus you get information on the exact leave time of the shuttle without having to expand your scan, which HamburgerSasu has used, but he killed his own scan. So he has 50 energy quicker than it would take for the scan to go from 0 energy to 50 energy. That's a little trick you can use. You can kill your own scan after the first scan to rebuild energy quicker. But frontal attack here coming in from Stay, who's playing is pretty smart, but the tank there is within range of those Reavers because he placed that tank all the way to the front against the bunker. Now Raids are hunting for the shuttle, but he cannot find it. But he knows that if he's not there, he has to be here. So he takes a turn, but he cannot find the shuttles because the shuttles are already entering the base here on the bottom side of HamburgerSasu's base. They're dropping there. He's gonna go for the minerals. In fact, Marines stimming in, Reavers unloading. Reavers gets shots off on the Marines. Marines splitting up, but he gets most of the Marines there with the Reaver Scarab shots. Now the Raids can finally kill those shuttles, but a turret there on the bottom side goes down to that single Zealot, and it might kill this second turret there as well, because HamburgerSasu is not cleaning it up. HamburgerSasu also being very greedy here by lifting up those 2 barracks and discontinuing his Marine production. Because it's very... Or wait, no, he's simply relocating them. He's not lifting up to get vision of the side there, which of course is always valuable, but in this specific scenario, he has so few units in his base that discontinuing Marine production will actually hurt his chances in defending against drops, even though he is getting more raids out by the minute. But the raids might not always be enough, because let's say he has his raids positioned here and the drop comes in from here and did not get spotted out by the engineering bay. In that case, the drop would reach all the way to here before his raids would be able to snipe those shuttles, and then there's 3 shuttles he has to kill. Same situation here. Raids were mislocated on the map, so the raids are gonna go in and they're gonna drop their units. The shuttles there, no storm. No storm? He does not have storm. He does not have storm. Does he not have storm? Or does he have storm? I'm not too sure. He could have stormed on the Marines there on the bottom side, but he decided against storming the Marines. Also, he's finally cleared out that Zealot there that was killing the turret, so he is fine in that regard now. Stay is progressing, not super quickly, but he's doing everything he has to do. He's got a nice amount of probes, and I like this pylon line here. Most players make cannons with those 4 pylons, but instead he builds pylons there, because he needed supply, basically. So this time around, another small drop with nothing in it is moving into the middle of the map because he wants to load up all this stuff into those shuttles. And he might go for a frontal attack here, at least that's what I assume, because there's not a lot of units here in the front for HamburgerSasu, and I think Stay knows this, because I think Stay knows that HamburgerSasu has been focusing on defending around his main for the last drop attempts. So now he can go in for a frontal attack. He's going to shuttle those units in, land them behind the wall, and then do a 2-fronted attack here. But the raids coming in, taking down those zealots and those shuttles. But all the shuttles have unloaded, and the front gets broken through. There's units coming in from the back now. Will this be enough? Because the Templars here coming in from the back, walking through that choke point into the fray. They're going to storm on the Marines. Marines trying to dodge storm. Raids dodge the storm first. Marines dodging the storms as well. So 2 storms have missed. And now the Templars have to walk through bunker fire in order to reach the backside here, and they are physically incapable of surviving that. So these units here staying alive. So HamburgerSasu pulled most of his units there to the front to great success, although he did lose the wall there. But the wall, of course, can be rebuilt. But more storms coming in here, more units coming in. Bunker there goes down, mostly to his own tank fire, but nonetheless, Stay is yielding some fruits with this approach. He is getting something done. Not a lot, because HamburgerSasu's minerals have been untouched this game so far. He's on 62 SCVs, and he is now reaching the point where he can fill out his entire base within a minute or 2. And once he reaches 13 minutes, HamburgerSasu is one of the scariest Terran players in all of Fastest Map in the entire world, because he can very, very, very quickly change his game style from defending to being the aggressor. Stay building on the middle of the map. He's not planning on losing, or well, He is assuming he's not going to be losing those gateways there on the middle in the near future, but HamburgerSasu is reaching 200 supply within the next 2 minutes. First, he's going to build a lot more starports, and he's getting EMP upgrade there as well. He's got all of his mech and air upgrades on the way, almost all finished, so he is on track and on point with that. Level 1 weapon has finished for Stay. Level 2 weapon has just been started. He's also started shields and armor. He's filling out his base with more gateways and more gateways in conjunction with more and more gateways on the middle. He goes in for a frontal attack of mostly Dragoons. Dragoons can take down those depots there in the front within tank range, but not within the range of all the tanks, whereas Zealots would be within range of all the tanks. Raze there try to go in to kill some stuff, but he kills the Corsair. Now migrates his way out of there, with more units streaming in here, and HamburgerSasu might have bitten off more than he can chew with his BM, because that's quite some units, and these units are going to keep streaming through the choke here, into HamburgerSasu's units continuously. So HamburgerSasu is sieging up his units well spread out, so that if the frontal line dies, there's always a line behind it, in between those factories. There's Dark Templars there, but he's got a vessel, so he is prepared. But the fact that there is no longer a choke here for HamburgerSasu spells trouble, because it just becomes way harder to defend if those Zealots can get on top of your tanks, if there's no wall keeping them away from those tanks. So that is something that HamburgerSasu might have to start worrying about, but he isn't. I think he's feeling pretty confident. Level 1 for his tanks has finished for both armor and weapons, so he's got that in the back. Whereas Stay, still on only level 1 weapons, has to wait a little while longer before his upgrades are up to par. Raid's moving into the middle of the map, hunting for shuttles, but he cannot physically get on top of the shuttles because he has to pull back to fight against those Zealots and Dragoons that are waltzing into his base. They're getting a pretty good spread there through the front, and they're getting on top of most of the tanks here in the front, so he will take down, I think, about 5 or 6 or 7 tanks there in the front, thanks to the help of the tank fire from HamburgerSasu's own tanks. Get some results, but more tanks will spawn very soon. Shuttle drop comes in, but it's empty. But HamburgerSasu will snipe it nonetheless, because he doesn't know. Second shuttle there also coming in. That one was not empty. He wanted to unload Zealot on top of the tanks, but he failed in doing so, which now means that Stay has to formulate yet another attack, another attempt. And the longer this game goes on, the bigger and the stronger HamburgerSasu becomes, because he's on 81 SCVs and 176 supply. And I think with another round of tanks or Goliaths, he's going to hit 200. But Stay, on the other side of the map, has an Arbiter on the way. Not 1, but 2. Got Arbiter recall also on the way, so he's planning on going for some recalls. Where he's going to aim these recalls at, I'm not sure. He could drop here a recall here on the side, recall there on the top side, or recall on top of the tanks as well. He's got some options, but first a massive frontal attack once again comes in assistance with a shuttle that's going to drop Zealots on top of those tanks. Shuttle there snipes. No. Yeah, he snipes the shuttle there before most of the Zealots can unload, and these factories are actually blocking Stay's units. Stay cannot physically get in there. 2 more shuttles coming in. Both shuttles get sniped. 1 Reaver there in the middle of the factory, but gets taken down by tanks immediately. And Stay does not get all that much done. He clears out 3 factories, of which 2 were under construction. And he takes down a couple of tanks here in the front as well. But HamburgerSasu is fine. And HamburgerSasu now takes his chances, because he unsieges and goes for the attack into the middle of the map, led by those Vultures going out first, placing mines there in the front as well. And he starts the aggression. The game is on, HamburgerSasu says, and now it's time for real conflict here on the middle of the map. Stay's got his back against the wall at the moment, but he's got all of his supply back, whereas HamburgerSasu still has supply being produced there inside of his factories, and he might actually have been a little bit too hasty here with his moves, because that's a lot of Dragoons, a lot of Zealots moving out and getting on top of those tanks, getting a pretty great surround there as well, and he kills a large chunk of those tanks, which now makes HamburgerSasu pull back just a tiny bit and siege up a little bit further away, but more Zealots coming out there from Stay, and they're gonna get on top of those tanks, and actually the mines are helping Stay kill those tanks. Now most of the tanks have gone down, and HamburgerSasu has gone from 180 supply down to 141. And he might actually have made a huge mistake there by moving out a little bit too early, being a little bit too eager and greedy to go for the fight. Shuttles also coming in here over the right side of the map. They're not He's actually flying himself into the trajectory of those raids. I'm not sure if I agree with that one, but maybe HamburgerSasu didn't spot it because he was so busy fighting, even though the shuttles flew over the barracks. But I think the shuttles might actually make their way through, whereas the zealots are also making their way through because there's not that many tanks there. Shuttle drop also coming in now from the bottom side. Two sides happening here at the same time. Zealot getting on top of the tanks, but now also shuttles reaching its destination of the minerals. Lows the Reaver there on the low ground. There's nothing there to kill the Reaver. Reaver now being targeted by the raids. Is there anything more inside those shuttles? The other shuttles are empty, and it actually looks like HamburgerSasu manages to preserve and keep all of his SCVs alive, and is at the same time rebuilding his mass here in between those factories. Most of the tanks are back alive, but more units are continuously streaming out of Stay's gateways and keeping the pressure up on HamburgerSasu. Shuttles there, flying away. He's got the Arbiters somewhere on the map. Where are the Arbiters? He had them on the way. They're still in the base. Alright. He's got energy for both of them for recalls. He's got 2 Corsairs there as well, and he's now actually sending out those Arbiters. He also has an Dark Archon there, but I don't think he's going to have to use it this game around. Although HamburgerSasu seems to be in pristine condition once again. He was very close to the edge for a very short period of time there, but he's managed to recover from losing his mass and pretty much losing his factories to gateway units. With his level 2 upgrades, almost level 3, against those level 112 upgrades from Stay. But Stay has those 2 Arbiters here on the bottom side, but a lot of raids and turrets in between its destination and the Arbiters. Tanks now flying up and loading onto those hills. Now it's going to be a very tense match. Those tanks up on the hill will make it very easy for HamburgerSasu to defend against those frontal attacks there from Stay. More tanks here up on the hill as well, so he's really planning on playing it very, very defensively. And he's killing his own SCVs there to open up supply space. He kills all of his own SCVs. Oh, good lord. Well, no, he killed 20 of his own SCVs there. That's very risky. Raids are moving back and forth. He's mostly just going to play with those dropships. He's got 12 dropships. And he's going to load them all up with tanks. But Reaver Recall flying... No, not the Reaver Recall. The recalls with the Arbiters are flying in right here, right now. And he doesn't use recalls. All of the Arbiters are going to go down. And the attempt fails. Actually, it fails. So Stay has not been doing all that well for the last 10 minutes or so. He has been fighting valiantly, but it's mostly mass against mass. And HamburgerSasu is right now in a position where he can survive that. Dropships and raids, EMP as well coming in. But HamburgerSasu realizes he might have to pull back because that's a lot of zealots that are coming in through the front. But then he realizes, wait, I've got my... Wait, what? What? Stay leaves the game before the Wraith and tank drop can actually hit. But HamburgerSasu is going to make it happen nonetheless. He goes for it. He wants to do it. He wants to kill that Nexus. Is he going to get that Nexus? He sieges up in between his left ally who is no longer there. And he kills the Nexus and leaves the game. HamburgerSasu gets done what he intended to be doing. A little bit of an odd game there at the end. Stay was going to die. He pretty much didn't have enough cannons around his Nexus to survive this drop attempt here from HamburgerSasu. He didn't have any units to pull back to his Nexus because he had no vision here over his entire top spot there, so he didn't know. It was mostly just these tanks here up on the hill that discouraged him to such a degree that he simply gave up. He could have kept on trying and probably maybe even had a chance of still winning, but he gives up. He does not believe in himself. He believes in himself less than I believed in him. So that's this video. One win for both players. Terran vs Protoss win for HamburgerSasu as usual, because he tends to win Terran vs Protoss quite a lot against players who are not of the utmost highest level. That's HamburgerSasu. He plays an explosive Terran with some very fun strategies, as you can see here. EMP from the vessel with the raids and the tanks are dropped on the low ground, killing the Nexus, potentially game ending, but also playing it on the edge. As you could see this match, he played it on the edge of the brink of extinction. or however you want to call it. He played it on the knife's edge. I think that's the saying. Very close to tipping over, falling into the infinity of darkness.